Welcome to China Truths. In this episode, we will bring you the following story. The pandemic rages in China during New Year's Eve, and hospitals are flooded with patients. Now, let's dive into the details. China Truths. The pandemic rages in China during New Year's Eve, and hospitals are flooded with patients. As China transitions from 2024 to 2025, the pandemic has been fierce, and hospitals have seen a large number of people seeking treatment. Officials threw out the names of a variety of viruses, but the public suspects it was COVID-19. Insiders say there are children with high fever and white lungs. During China's New Year's Eve, netizens revealed that the crowds in hospitals were like Spring Festival travel rush. A video shows that on the first day of the new year in 2025, there was a long queue at the hospital at 6 a.m. Another video showed the situation in the hospital at around 9 p.m. on December 31, 2024. The blogger who posted the video said, "This is not at the New Year's Eve countdown, but the crowds at the children's hospital." A clip showed hospital security guards holding loudspeakers directing crowds. Netizens pointed out that this is not China's Spring Festival travel rush, this is China Children's Hospital. Some bloggers also said that today's hospitals are as busy as going to shopping malls. Will virus infections become more rampant in the future? Or is it becoming quieter as the population shrinks? Based on information from mainland social platforms, from the end of 2024 until the New Year's Eve into 2025, online videos showed that children's hospitals in various places were crowded with people, and many children had symptoms such as fever and cough. Many netizens have reported that there are collective infections among people around them, and hospital beds are all occupied. Not only pediatrics, but also adult departments are overcrowded, and many young and elderly people are infected and have fever. People in Tianjin, Guangdong, Jiangsu, Shandong, Liaoning, Hebei, Anhui, and other places said that after being infected, they not only experienced symptoms of dizziness, hot and cold all over the body, but also were accompanied by runny nose, cough, sore throat, general weakness, and very uncomfortable. A blogger said that major hospitals in Shenyang have been completely overwhelmed. Mycoplasma, influenza A, infections with multiple types of virus are all intersecting and fighting together. Needless to say, even if you are hospitalized, you have to wait in line for a day for intravenous treatments. The corridors were filled with parents of children camping out with tents and folding tables. A woman posted a video at the hospital saying that many children were infected with a mixture of viruses, not just one type of virus, and developed into severe pneumonia in 3 or 4 days. Now all the beds in the pediatrics department and outpatient emergency rooms are full. In emergency rooms, there are at least 1,500 to 2,000 admissions every day, and young children are now suffering from a surge of adenovirus infections. Then there are various viruses, such as norovirus viruses, mycoplasma pneumonia, adenovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, syncytial virus. There are too many mixed-infected children, and almost few children are simply infected, all of them are mixed infections, and the onset of the disease mostly lasts 2 to 3 days, and then go to the hospital for a checkup and you will find that it is pneumonia. It may be mild pneumonia, but if you take care of it slowly, it may develop into severe pneumonia in 3 or 4 days. In the case of severe pneumonia, it will spread very seriously. If a child has a high fever, they must go to the hospital for an examination as soon as possible without delay. She said that one child had developed white lungs. The child was brought here today. This child was on his 3rd day of illness. The mother took him to the hospital for a checkup and said it was pneumonia. Then she said it was difficult to wait for a bed in the hospital, so she went to a small clinic near her home to get intravenous treatment. The treatment did not work for 3 days, and he had a high fever. On the 3rd night, which was the 6th day of the disease, he developed a high fever. When we came today, they found a small piece of pneumonia that was white lung. The doctor said that this required lung cleaning. He had to be hospitalized. On December 27, a doctor in Jiangsu posted on the mainland Xiaohongshu platform that an unknown new virus was discovered in their hospital, and the patients all suffered from pneumonia and respiratory failure. The virus is not as transmissible as the new coronavirus, but its mortality rate is much higher than that of the new coronavirus. The doctor said that there were a total of 30 patients in the ward he was responsible for, 6 of whom had died, and 3 of the remaining 24 patients were about to die. Officials have given out various names for the virus, and the public has questioned whether it is COVID-19. China Central Television or CCTV reported on December 28, 2024 that the China Center for Disease Control and Prevention stated the latest monitoring results show acute respiratory infectious diseases are on the rise across the country, with mycoplasma viruses, syncytial viruses, etc. still at high levels. At the same time, influenza has also entered a seasonal epidemic period. The positivity rate of influenza virus has an obvious upward trend. In addition to the increase in influenza patients, surveillance data shows that the positivity rate of human metapneumovirus among recent cases of people aged 14 and under has fluctuated and increased. It is explained that human metapneumovirus is a common virus that can cause acute respiratory infections. The main symptoms include fever, cough, runny nose, etc., which are similar to flu symptoms. There are currently no effective drugs or vaccines. Some viruses are considered influenza. Li Hongya, chief physician for women and children at Hunan's Ahmadiyyan Central Hospital, told Chinese media, influenza has entered an outbreak period. According to the hospital's statistics, the number of patients increased 10 times in December compared with November. Norovirus was also mentioned. Blogger Coach Jean asked, "Is there another outbreak of norovirus in Hefei, Anhui? My throat is so uncomfortable now." Many students asked for leave this week. They thought it was because it was cold and they didn't want to practice. When asked, they all had fevers at home and were lying down. Some elementary schools said that the entire class was on leave and they had fevers and diarrhea. The authorities claim that influenza viruses and human metapneumovirus are high in epidemics, and no new strains have emerged. But the public didn't believe it. On December 29, 2024, a blogger who worked at a mainland radio station said, "Has a new strain emerged again? Experts have explained it to you, saying it is not ruled out that a person can be infected with multiple respiratory diseases at the same time." He said, "There are indeed too many patients recently. To break it down, our family members, my parents, were infected by their children before. After all, as we get older, our immunity is not strong. I myself had a cold and cough 2 days ago, and I doubt it. What is metapneumovirus? Alas, this virus has spread again at home. My deputy broadcast director and several members of my team are suffering from coughs, colds and fevers." The blogger said that now everyone at the radio station wears a mask when working, because they are afraid of infecting each other. The blogger also said that recently there are more people suffering from partial lung disease, and it's just a new name anyway. In fact, its forms are very similar to colds. It is true that the virus is highly prevalent, so please pay attention to your health. Beijing blogger Ziting live streamed his illness and said, "What kind of flu is this? Even the test can't detect it." Some netizens left a message, "I feel like the new coronavirus is always in the body after I get it. As long as I don't pay attention, it will happen. It won't feel good for a long time, and my throat still hurts." If it's not true, why do they all feel the same? Influenza A is the new coronavirus, right? On December 29, 2024, a blogger said, "Why are there so many new viruses emerging now? What is human metapneumovirus? Yesterday, my child had a fever, and we went to the hospital to see a doctor. A virus called human metapneumovirus was detected. This was the first time I heard about it. The child had nausea and fever, body aches and runny nose, and the symptoms were particularly similar to coronavirus. I take the initiative to ask the doctor to prescribe a comprehensive examination. After all, the child cannot bear the trouble. If you don't ask, the doctor will give you the Mycoplasma nucleic acid test and A and B tests as usual. If you add up these items, in fact, it costs a lot, so it's better to get it right in one step. There are too many weird viruses. Are the viruses getting stronger, or are we getting weaker? David Su, former director of the acupuncture department of the China Hospital of Traditional Chinese Medicine, recently said, the origin of the so-called human metapneumovirus is very complicated. Add in other diseases, and you can say that in the same person, he has both monkeypox and the new coronavirus, and got the flu again. It may mutate into a new disease in his body, which is unnamed. The authorities want to avoid the term new coronavirus. Many netizens also left messages on social media. I don't have a fever. I was eating fruit when I suddenly started to have diarrhea, followed by chills. My upper and lower teeth were chattering, and I was shivering from the cold. I got into bed to keep warm. I seemingly started to have a fever in the middle of the night, but my body temperature was normal. I sweated in the second half of the night and had aches from my head to my feet. I continued to have diarrhea and vomiting the next day. I lost 2 pounds in one day and my eye sockets were sunken. It was the worst ever and I felt like I was going to die. Personally, I feel that the pandemic is more severe than the last time. The infection is also faster. The onset of the disease is fierce, the high fever does not go away, flesh hurts anywhere, the eyes hurt, nausea, and vomiting after eating. My 14-year-old son said that he shed tears. It's all boiling hot, and it won't get better without infusion. A batch of people in my factory fall ill in 1 day, and a half fall ill in 2 days. It's just COVID-19. But if you use the name, you won't be reimbursed. Some netizens said, who made society like this? If you go to the streets, there will be no one. If you go to the shopping malls, there will be no one. If you go to the hospital, it will be overcrowded. This is really a disaster. Some netizens also said, why do they feel like they are back in December of 2022? The Chinese government's 3-year extreme zero-COVID policy ended without warning in December 2022, and no corresponding protective measures were taken, resulting in a tsunami-like outbreak of the pandemic and the death of a large number of people. As for the death toll, it has become a closely guarded issue by the authorities. The Civil Affairs Ministry subsequently stopped releasing funeral data, raising questions about a cover-up. To this day, the authorities have not resumed publishing funeral data.